Most players have no idea how to climb in League of Legends. They stay stuck season after season. Not because they have no talent, but because they don't know how to actually improve. And I get that because I've been there too. But here's the truth. After coaching thousands of players, I've seen that most only need 1 or 2 key fixes to unlock massive progress and start climbing way faster in SoloQ. So if you just give me a few minutes, I'll show you the 6 exact steps you can use to climb way faster in League of Legends. But first, we're going to need to understand how climbing in League actually works. Because if you want to climb in the game, you have to get better at the game. You have to improve. And we're going to show that through the Johnny case study. Johnny is a League player, currently in Platinum 2, and he's trying to get to Emerald 4. So if you see, these are Johnny's skills. And on average, currently, that is about Platinum 2. And he's pretty good at lane. Overall, his micro trading, wave management, it's all pretty decent. But on the other side, Johnny is not that good at knowing where he needs to be on the map. He plays on autopilot, he sometimes gets frustrated, he gets ganked by the enemy jungle, and he types jungle diff in chat. Now, a lot of players make the mistake that they start improving the things they're already good at, because it's easy for them to understand, and then they wonder why they're not climbing, because you need to be a consistent player to climb. And inconsistencies will not allow you to climb. So what you need to do is you don't need to improve the things you're already good at to an even better level. What you need to do is you need to improve the things you're not that good at. So for Johnny, we're going to be working on lull state usage and bringing that up to a next level. And once we've done that, we're going to go towards threat assessment and we're going to bring that towards the next level. And suddenly Johnny is an Emerald 4 consistent player. He's climbed, he's improved. The first step is creating an environment of improvement. And this means that we got to create and find feedback loops. If you want to change or improve something, you need feedback to understand how to actually do that. And the way that we're going to do it is by removing variables so it's easier for our brain to focus on the things that matter. Now, this means that we need to have a small champion pool. Yes, guys, the smaller the pool, the easier it is for us to remove the variables and focus on the game fundamentals. We also need to create reference point consistency. If you're playing a champion like Yone or Zed, it's just a lot harder to improve than if you're playing a champion like Victor or a champion like Ahri, for example. Because the reality is, Yone and Zed have a lot of options, a lot of variables in the game that they can do, while champions like Victor's variables are a lot smaller. So that means that it just simply is easier to improve upon these champions. As a final thing, we need to have intention in our game. We need to block out all the outside noise so we do not autopilot in game and we can actually focus on our own good quality decision making. The second step is to locate your biggest problem and to improve it. The reality is League of Legends is a really hard game and we can realistically only improve one thing at a time. Our brain likes comfort. It doesn't really like challenge. So if you're gonna make something really big and you're gonna say, okay, I gotta get better at laning, you're fucked. You can't improve that. You gotta chunk it down to smaller levels so that your brain can understand it and it's simpler for your brain to change itself. And this is why we use the concept of chunking. So in Johnny's case, he needs to chunk down and start with his lull states first. And once he's improved his lull states, only then can he move on to the next one, which is threat assessment. So we gotta locate our biggest issue and start improving it. There's one really important step that a lot of players forget when they want to improve something, is that they need to visualize what it actually should look like. A really good example is trading. So if you're playing LeBlanc versus Ahri, what a lot of players will do on LeBlanc is they'll QW onto the Ahri and then they get charmed by the Ahri, they lose the trade because the W gets cancelled and you don't deal any damage. So if you want to improve your trading and make your trading better, what you got to do is you got to visualize how does the other trading pattern look like. And a really simple way to do this is by just watching the trading pattern unfold in front of your eyes and then copying that. And this is something that I've recently implemented in my coaching, is that I show the player that I'm coaching a bunch of examples to actually show them what good quality fundamentals look like, and all they have to do is just copy it. So in the case of the Ahri, the LeBlanc versus Ahri example, is that as LeBlanc you want to W towards the side so that the Ahri charm actually misses you, or it's really hard for her to land that. Or what you want to do is you want to start with your W instead of the Q. And once you can start visualizing that, it's easy to know where you gotta go, what your goal is. And that makes getting the repetitions in a lot easier. Which is step 4, getting the repetitions in. Practice. Let the feedback loop begin. Remove the variables, focus on the things that you want to focus on the fundamental or the chunk that you want to improve, and start getting the repetitions in. Every rep matters because it makes it easier for your brain to start changing your habits. Now, there's a very important caveat I want to mention while practicing and getting the repetitions in. It's the mental stack problem. So what happens when you are playing a game of League of Legends? I'm going to draw it out for you guys. You've got this pie here, and every piece of the pie is a fundamental that you give some mental energy towards. Some are a little bit more intensive than others. Maybe trading takes about 25%. Maybe your jungle tracking only takes about 10%. But if you, for example, want to improve your trading, what's going to happen is that it's going to take more of the pie. So suddenly trading actually takes 50%. And that means that there is less mental energy for the rest of the fundamentals. So I get a lot of messages saying, hey Tim, I'm practicing my trading patterns or I'm practicing my laning and I just start dying to every single gank. Is this normal? I'm losing LP. Yes, this is completely normal. It is normal to start losing a little bit of LP before we start gaining afterwards. And this usually takes a couple of weeks. So the first week, it's usually really bad because the mental pie is just fully focused on that one thing that you're trying to improve, which is totally normal. And the better we get, and the better our brain gets at recognizing the patterns and improving that, what's going to happen is that it's going to need less and less and less mental energy. So all of your old skills and fundamentals actually come back to what your old point a few weeks in. And then usually 3 weeks later or 4 weeks later, we get to the point where we're actually playing better than before because we've now created a new habit while having the old habit back up to par. So we've now improved. So step 5 is to nail down and create the habit in your brain. And how long does it actually take to create a habit? Well, the reality is I used to always think it was about 3 weeks, but I did some research and over the past few years, I've always had the idea that it was a bit up and down. And maybe on average, it might be somewhere between 3 to 9 weeks for a person, but it just really depends on what type of habit that we're trying to create. It depends on the complexity, on the chunk as well. If it's a really complicated habit or a really big part of the game that you're trying to improve, it's going to take you longer than it is if you're just trying to ask yourself the question, what's next, every single time you're going to come from base. It also depends on your environment, your ability to actually block out the noise and focus on making that habit a thing. You can also have cues, for example. Maybe you have yourself a nice little sticky note under your minimap, which is going to allow you to create that habit a lot faster because every single time you look at the map, you see that sticky note and you remind yourself to create that habit. Consistency. If you only do it 3 days a week or if you do it every day a week, there's a big difference in how fast it's going to go. Consistency, aka repetitions. And finally, motivations. How serious are you about actually creating this habit and about actually improving? So what I want you to understand is, yes, if you properly chunk it, it probably will take 3 weeks. But if it's a bit of a tougher learning objective, or if it's a bit of a tougher fundamental that you want to improve, I don't want you to stick to just 3 weeks, or maybe it's shorter, maybe it's longer, I want you to really focus on the process of improving the habit. Look at the results, look at how you are applying it in game and how it's showing in game. And look at how you're feeling with your mental stack and your application of what you're trying to improve. And if you can do that, that's how you can create habits that consistently last. So you've now improved. And if you just repeat this process, you will automatically climb. Most players actually, it takes only 1 or 2 habits to make progress and climb, which is what I've seen in my coaching program. There's one really big mistake that I want you guys to avoid, which is swapping learning objectives too early. This makes it so hard for your brain to actually create and settle on habits. So I really want you guys to be careful with this one. Now, if you're curious on understanding how your brain actually works on improving, I recommend checking out this video. And otherwise, I'll see you guys real soon with a new video on my channel. Thank you for watching, guys.